What's the strangest reason someone has cut you out of their life? I never thought I'd lose my best friend of nearly 10 years over something so small, so bizarre, that even now it feels like a bad joke. But life has a way of surprising you, and sometimes the things that break you apart aren't the huge betrayals or screaming fights you'd expect. Sometimes it's something as simple as a sandwich. Mia and I met in 6th grade. She was the new kid, awkward, shy, clutching her notebook like a shield. I was the loud one, desperate to make a friend who wouldn't drift away. We got paired up for a science project, and within a week we were inseparable. We had matching notebooks filled with doodles and code words. We spent weekends making up dance routines to songs we'd never perform for anyone. She was the one who came with me to buy my first bra, the one who stayed up with me all night when my parents fought, the one who gave me the courage to sing in the school talent show. Through middle school, high school, and into our 20s, we were each other's person. We knew every crush, every heartbreak, every embarrassing story. I thought nothing could touch us. But adulthood is tricky. By the time we were 23, things started shifting. I got a job that kept me late. She had roommates who didn't like me. We saw each other less. And when we did, she seemed distant, like she had a whole new world I wasn't part of. Still, I told myself it was just a phase. Friendships bend, but ours had always held strong. Then came the day of the cafe. We'd both been exhausted from work and decided to meet up at our old spot, this tiny cafe downtown where we'd spent countless afternoons during high school, splitting sandwiches and gossiping about boys. It felt like a tradition, like something steady we could still share. When the waitress came, I ordered the turkey club, just like we always used to. I asked them to cut it in half, thinking nothing of it. When the plate came, Mia stared at it like it was poison. Turkey? She asked, her voice sharp. Yeah, I said, smiling, trying to lighten the mood. Classic, right? We used to live on these. She pushed the plate away like I'd insulted her. I don't eat meat anymore. That was news to me. In all our recent conversations, she'd never mentioned it. No casual, I've gone vegetarian, no funny story about missing bacon. Nothing. I blinked, confused, and said, oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry, I should have asked. But she didn't respond. She just crossed her arms, her lips pressed into a thin line. The rest of lunch was silent. She didn't touch the food. I tried to ask about her job, her roommates, anything to fill the quiet, but her answers were clipped, one-word responses. It felt like I was sitting across from a stranger. That night, I texted her. I apologized again. I told her I honestly didn't know and that I'd have ordered something else if I had. No response. The next day, I noticed she'd unfriended me on Facebook, then blocked me on Instagram. Then her number went straight to voicemail. It was like she had systematically erased me overnight. I thought maybe she just needed space, so I waited. A week, then 2. Finally, I reached out through a mutual friend, asking if Mia was okay, if she was mad at me. A few days later, that friend sent me Mia's response. If she really knew me, she wouldn't have ordered that sandwich. That one sentence ended everything. I couldn't believe it. 10 years of inside jokes, sleepovers, road trips, and secrets, all undone by a turkey club. At first, I was angry. Then I was heartbroken. Eventually, I just felt hollow. Mutual friends were divided. Some thought Mia had overreacted. Others said maybe I'd been blind, that maybe she had been dropping hints about wanting me to notice changes in her life and I hadn't. The more I thought about it, the more I wondered if the sandwich wasn't really the reason at all. Maybe she'd been pulling away for months, and the turkey was just the excuse she needed to slam the door. Years have passed now, and we've never spoken again. Sometimes I scroll through old photos of us, our matching Halloween costumes, our road trip selfies, the day we graduated high school with our arms around each other, promising we'd always be best friends. It's hard to reconcile that girl with the one who cut me out so completely, but the strangest part isn't just losing her, it's the reason. Out of all the ways friendships can die, ours ended with a sandwich on a plate between us, uneaten, untouched, a symbol of something I never saw coming. And sometimes when I walk past that cafe, I catch myself glancing inside, half expecting to see her sitting there, waiting, but she never is. Just the ghost of a friendship that ended in silence. Have you ever regretted reaching out for help? I grew up in a house where silence was strength. My parents weren't unkind, but they believed in handling problems privately. If you cried, you were told to stop being dramatic. If you admitted fear, you were told to be tough. So I learned early that the best way to survive was to smile, keep my head down, and never let anyone know how heavy life sometimes felt. By the time I got to university, I was the picture of stability. People thought of me as reliable, organized, even cheerful. Nobody saw the part of me that dragged itself through late night shifts just to pay for books, or the part of me that sat awake worrying about my father, whose sudden illness had turned our home upside down. My mother was exhausted, my younger siblings were confused, and I was trying to be everything at once. Student, worker, caretaker, glue. One night, after finishing a closing shift at work, I slumped onto the bus, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion where even breathing feels heavy. The city lights blurred past the window, and for the first time in my life, I admitted to myself that I couldn't keep going like this. The thought scared me. I had built my entire identity around holding everything together, but that night, I thought, I need help. I can't do this alone. There was a classmate I remembered, someone who had once smiled kindly and said, if you ever need someone, just ask. That memory felt like a lifeline. My hands shook as I typed, hey, I'm struggling right now. I don't know who else to talk to. For 10 minutes, I stared at the blinking cursor, debating whether to delete it. Finally, I pressed send. Her reply came quickly. Of course, I'm here. What's going on? The relief was instant. Words spilled out of me like water bursting from a dam. I told her about my dad's illness, about the constant fear of losing him, about the weight of trying to help my mom while pretending everything was normal. I told her about the late nights, the money worries, the way I sometimes lay in bed and wondered what it would feel like if I just stopped existing. Her responses were short but supportive. That sounds so hard. I'm sorry you're going through that. Not much, but it was enough. For the first time in months, I went to bed lighter. I actually thought maybe things will be okay. The next morning destroyed that hope. When I walked into class, I noticed people looking at me differently, not with kindness, with curiosity, whispers, stares. Then one guy, someone I barely spoke to, smirked and said, hey, I heard you had a breakdown last night. My stomach dropped. Later, a friend pulled me aside, hesitating before showing me their phone. Screenshots from our class group chat. My confidant had shared nearly everything I'd told her. Not verbatim, but enough. She described me as dumping my drama on her, joked about me acting like I was the only one struggling, even added, he's being so over the top about it. Some people laughed. Others chimed in with pitying comments, the kind you say when you don't respect someone but want to seem nice. My private pain, the deepest, most vulnerable parts of myself, had been turned into gossip, into entertainment. I couldn't breathe. For weeks, I avoided class. I kept my head down, skipped lectures, answered only when necessary. Every glance felt like judgment, and in that silence, I made myself a promise. Never again. Never open up. Never give anyone that kind of power over me again. So I didn't. I locked everything inside. Even as my father's health worsened, even as bills piled higher, even as the weight grew unbearable, I carried it all in silence. Outwardly, I smiled. I cracked jokes. I worked. People thought I was fine. Inside, I was hollow. It wasn't until years later, after graduation, that the walls finally cracked. I had moved to a new city, started a new life where no one knew me. I thought I had buried that betrayal for good. But one evening, sitting with a new friend, they asked me a question I wasn't ready for. Are you really okay? The way they asked, gently, genuinely, cut through me. I opened my mouth to say, I'm fine. But for the first time in years, the words wouldn't come out. Something broke. So I told them, not everything at once, but enough. My father's illness, my exhaustion. The way I reached out once and got burned so badly, I swore I'd never try again. When I finished, I waited for judgment, or worse, indifference. Instead, my friend just said softly, I'm glad you told me. You're not a burden. Not to me. And I cried. Not just a few tears, but years of pain I had hidden away. Because in that moment, I realized what that first betrayal had cost me. How many nights I suffered in silence. How much weight I carried alone. How much healing I delayed. All because the wrong person turned my honesty into a punchline. So do I regret reaching out? Yes, but not because I shouldn't have asked for help. I regret that I trusted the wrong person first. And sometimes, late at night, I still wonder how different my life might have been if my first attempt at vulnerability hadn't been shattered so cruelly.